I don't know about you, but me personally, I am not a big fan at all as to how Wano Country ended off. I'm really not. I think that when it comes to the post of an arc, let's say all the fighting is done, we have to wrap up a lot of these storylines, and the character arcs are, for the most part, done. I think that Oda had a lot of misses. There were these phenomenal hits, like Shanks or Momo's character. There are these phenomenally damn good hits, yes, without a doubt. But then there are big, gaping misses. And that final chapter, that was a big miss on so many fronts. The final chapter of Wano Country, I think, just flat out sucked, which is very shocking, because the final chapter of, let's say, Enies Lobby, or let's say Alabasta, or let's say even Dressrosa, these chapters did not suck whatsoever. But man, the last chapter of Wano Country, the longest running arc in One Piece, sucked. And the biggest reason why, of course, is Yamato. Yamato was a huge miss by Ichiro Oda. And I understand a lot of folks hate her character. She is, quote, not a well-written character, end quote. And to each their own. But I think even if you don't like her character, fundamentally, it does feel off for a major decision like that she made off screen to be one of the things that we see in the final chapter of Wano Country. And also knowing how there was so much build up for Yamato's character during the arc itself, she won't join the crew, which is shocking on so many fronts. And I think all this kind of stems back to what we saw in the Road to Laugh Tale. When Oda took his break during the month period, I think that's when things really did change for the future of the One Piece story. So before I get to more Yamato stuff, I do want to touch upon various things in the Road to Laugh Tale that I think are actually very important for the story moving forward, and then I'll tackle the Yamato stuff later on in the video. Because I think that in this situation with Yamato, this is where Oda makes that big decision. And the hints are actually in the Road to Laugh Tale. Now, first and foremost, there are various things that pertain to the last load poneglyph. Not road, load. Because it looks like, based on the scan, guys, it looks like the load poneglyph makes more sense. It's more conjunction with, let's say, load star. And of course, it's not raft tail, it's laugh tail. So of course, the R's and the L's in Japanese, they are always swapping. Sometimes, of course, as an English speaker, it gets confusing. That's, for example, folks sometimes say Eneru, not NL, or it is Arabasta and Alabasta, things like that. So that being said, load poneglyph or roll poneglyph. And it looks like, based on what we see in the Road to Laugh Tale, there are three various locations. Elbap being one, that's a given. Of course, yes, without a doubt. But then you have Blackbeard's place, Fullerled Island. I don't think so, but if it was there, it's actually kind of fitting in a way, because Blackbeard is an adversary that eventually the Straps must overcome. Let's say if the One Piece itself is not found before Blackbeard is defeated, he'll have the key to actually get to Luffy's dream. So I'm not against the idea of BB having the final opponent, especially where he's a guy that is competing with Luffy to reach the One Piece, duh. And then there's another place called Vira, which is a place, honestly, that has very little information at all. Where apparently Mont Blanc Norland visited that place 400 years ago, and apparently the government there was overthrown by the Rev. This kind of feels like a false flag. Like, really? I mean, maybe. But I would definitely say Elbaf is way more likely, and of course, Fullerled Island are way more likely than a random place like Vira. I actually even rather Sphinx Island, Whitebeard's place, where Marco was at, either that than Vira. But it's in the cards, allegedly. Now, after this, we have some intel on Rox, where it is confirmed, more so in the Road to Laugh Tale, that Rox is likely the strongest person that Roger's ever fought against. So keep in mind that during the Odin flashback, when we see Roger fight against Whitebeard, this is a terminally sick Gold D Roger. For how impressive he was literally going to die. in a year's time.
Crazy.
So it appears that when he fought against Rocks, at that point in time, in the time before he got this disease, that is all prime strength Goldie Roger. But Rocks being stated to be, again, likely the strongest person that Roger fought against, that does give a little more onus to someone like Blackbeard being the final villain of the story, because Blackbeard inherited Rocks' will. In fact, some folks say that Rocks actually exists within Blackbeard as a separate soul, something of that sort. And that's why Blackbeard can't fall asleep, even though he does dream big. Now after that, there's some intel on the 9 Scabbards, where the 9 Scabbards were apparently originally called the 7 Scoundrels, which is very intriguing because among the 9 Scabbards, 2 of them do pass away, Izo and Ashura Doji, leaving 7 Scabbards left. So it looks like Oda had returned essentially to the original idea of the 7 Scoundrels through the 9 Scabbard, to where now it's the 7 Scabbards. After this, on a quick note, we do have some information about Ulti. And I'm a big Ulti fanboy. Yes, I am. Ulti has hit my heart of hearts, my Kingdom Hearts, for damn sure. And we find out in the 1053.2 that Ulti has her mask on for a big reason, a big secret. And that is tongue, lick a tongue action from Ulti. And that I thought was pretty damn dope, to say the least. I kind of want to go back to my old One Piece Top Girl streams and change it up. Yes, I do, without a doubt. Because that to me is a bonus. And it's kind of interesting too, where Page 1 can transform into his hybrid form and in his full Zoan form, and when he does that, his mask is off. But when Ulti does the same thing, her mask is still on and it transforms with her. Why? Maintain the mask because she has a big secret, which is that long tongue. Yes, sir. And then also on a side note real quick, in the Road to Laughdale, they mention how the God King, Shanks, when he makes moves, he sends ripples across the world. And there are various translations of this section of the Road to Laughdale chapters that really do hype up the greatness that is the Red-Haired Wonder, which of course, to be expected. It is what it is. He has a movie after him for a damn good reason. Now after this, we have Monkey D. Luffy. Monkey Nika D. Nika D. Luffy. The godliness and the weirdness. But there are, I think, some important details here that do need to be discussed, without a doubt. So first and foremost, they talk about how Luffy can, in fact, rubberize his surroundings. And they use him grabbing the lightning bolt where he actually rubberized said lightning bolt. So this kind of confirms more so that Luffy is actually able to rubberize energy, because lightning is in fact energy. So when Kaido fights his Luffy for the first time in chapter 1044 in Gear 5, and we see him rebound the blast breath, and there's a boing, that kind of sound effect, like a sonic platform boing, and it looks like it's very possible, even more so now, that Luffy is not just rubberizing matter, things like the ground and solid matter, but actually energy itself can be turned into rubber. Plasma turned into rubber. How? Shenanigans. Nika shenanigans. And you know what? Hey, respect it. Because understand this. I have seen Luffy do crossovers with Toriko and Dragon Ball. But when he's in Nika form, he rolls with a different crowd. And that crowd consists of Bugs Bunny, of Daffy Duck, of Goofy, and Mickey Mouse. We're getting weird. And what's really, really strange, but also something I said before in the past, that's very possible, is that in the Road to Laughdale, Luffy's fruit, Hito Hito no Mi, Zoan model fruit Nika, is in both the Paramecia and the Zoan categories. Both categories. We see him in the Paramecia category as the Gomu Gomu fruit, and the picture is of him being in Gear 4 bound man. And the mythical Zoan section is also Luffy, but he's in Nika form. I have said this before. with clarifications where maybe this might be a thing, that Luffy is still a paramecia until he is in Gear 5, and when he's in Gear 5, he's a mythical Zoan who has the properties of a paramecia. That sounds weird as all hell, but Luffy's ability is the definition of weird as all hell.
True, and yeah, that's pretty true.
Especially when it is tailored to a One Piece specific deity. And some fruits kind of do this because there are special paramecias. Blackbeard is clearly a special Logia because he has no intangibility. All things are attracted to him. That makes him special, duh. And Luffy then could be an extra super special mythical Zoan with all this crazy Nika shenanigan stuff. But they do mention in 1053.4 that the animal nature consumes the Zoan user when it comes to awakening, and they refer to the impel down jailer guards in this section. So I don't think that means that Luffy is going to lose his mind like those impel down jailer beast guards did. But I think for the most part what that implies is that when he transforms into Gear 5, the Nika form, aspects of the sun god, like its mannerisms, or that heartbeat, or always enjoying the battle, that kind of stuff, these things are going to kind of creep into Luffy because the fruit itself does have a very strong will, like a lot of Zoan abilities do. But the end results are still the same. Pure devastation. In the Road to Laugh-Tale, there is information pertaining to the Bajrang gun. And in the Road to Laugh-Tale, they mention how the reverberations of the Bajrang gun could be felt from 1,000 miles away. Now, let's say, for example, that Luffy is the center point of a circle, and then the radius is 1,000 miles. That would mean that the diameter, in theory, is a 2,000 mile diameter for the reverberations that are felt from Luffy's Bajrang gun. Yo, dogs, that is literally the length of Australia. If Luffy was in the center of Australia, everyone in Australia is feeling the Bajrang gun. Now, what exactly caused this feeling across this area? It could be the actual shock waves that are jettisoning from the Bajrang gun, or it could be the undersea volcano that erupted that signaled the end of the fight itself. Maybe. Of course, reverberating throughout that area doesn't equal you can destroy said area. However, it is more onus to the idea that he could have at least enough attack potency to destroy an entire continent. Particularly knowing how at the end of the Bajrang gun, it gets even more powerful. But undeniably, Luffy has grown so much as a fighter, and that statistic is more evidence to that fact. And also you have to wonder, did all of Wano country actually feel the Bajrang gun? Did Zunisha feel the Bajrang gun from where it was located? So this would even provide a sense of scale as to how large the environment was for Wano country and the waters surrounding Wano country, without a doubt. So there are very important things we've gotten, I think, from the Road to Laugh-Tale without a doubt. But to close this video, I've got to return to Yamato. In the Road to Laugh-Tale, 1053.3, we have the Yamato section. And the Yamato section is actually very expansive. It's actually just even more expansive, actually, than even the Luffy section. But unlike the Luffy section, which is kind of clear-cut, the Yamato section is all over the place. It really seemed like Oda didn't have any clear-cut idea as to what he wanted to do with Yamato. Things like Yamato being like a lot more standoffish, more cold and serious, even be like a tsundere of sorts, or Yamato having 3 eyes and using martial arts skills, or she would be a ninja, or she actually used a sword unlike Kaido who's a club, or her actually being 10 years younger than the Yamato that I actually see in the story. Also things like Yamato even questioning being Oden because Yamato is a girl, but she wants to be a guy like Oden. The various details of Yamato's hybrid form, even events that pertain to Yamato's flashback when she was in that cave. So many different ideas, so many different things, so many incoherent things that are just all over the place when it comes to what Oda wants to do with Yamato. And I think that in of itself is the hint. When Oda was talking about going to Africa in June and actually taking that break, and he said during this big post that he was going to, quote, "I want to fix up the structure for the final saga of the story so I can tighten it up as soon as possible," end quote. Because he was so wishy-washy on what to do with Yamato from the very beginning, even moving forward in the story, I think that he cut Yamato for that particular reason. It's very similar to, let's say, the Shichibukai. Oda has said before in the past that the reason why One Piece became such a longer story was because of the warlords. And the warlords as characters, as adversaries, needed entire arcs built around them so they could be defeated and or integrated into the story appropriately. The warlords needed X amount of time, which made the story X amount longer. If Yamato comes to the Straw Hats on the greater journey, that means that time and chapters, panels, must be allocated for Yamato for X, Y, and Z reason. And because Oda has a quote set time frame of like 3 years or 5 years left in the story, though to be fair, he even admitted he has no idea. Of course, Yamato being there means a longer One Piece. So the 3 to 5 years that Oda had in mind could be like 6 or 7 years because Yamato needs that much panel time. If she does join the crew later on in the story, she's going to join, let's say, for the final war stuff, or let's say there's going to be a second voyage montage, similar in the Oden flashback and Goldie Roger's voyage, where it's like a montage of events that happens. That's when Yamato may join the crew in earnest. So that, I think, once again, is ultimately the reason why Yamato got cut for the immediate future. And honestly, I think it is it's a bad move.
But wait!
But very quickly, an extra addendum to this video, because listen, I just read 1059 of One Piece, and in this chapter, there is a Yamato section talking about why she was going to stay on Wano Country when she talks to Luffy, Jinbei, Sanji, and Zoro. And the annoying part is that this is honest to God damage control. Number one, it undercuts Akainu's words of the samurai being strong, therefore we can't go into Wano Country willy-nilly. It undercuts the Gorosei statements of they're closed off, so we can't interview Wano Country at this point in time because they're closed off. It undercuts Momo's character because Momo was trying to be this strong, independent kind of samurai where him and his men, the samurai, the scarabaeus and so on, they would be the ones to actually lead the fight against any invaders themselves. And also, it's predicated on Green Bull arriving. So if Green Bull doesn't show up, Yamato goes with the Straw Hats. Green Bull shows up, and then she stays. What? And that's the counter for all of the buildup, all of the Ace stuff, all of the statements to even Kaido to his face that I'm gonna go to Luffy and company? Really? Green Bull arriving. And it undercuts so many characters in the past and their statements. And actually for the future too, because Luffy gives Momonosuke the Straw Hat flag, which is supposed to be a deterrent for anyone that may invade Wano lands. Just how Whitebeard, just how Big Mom, just how Shanks, just how various Yonko have their flags in their territory as a deterrent so no one can enter these lands. So even though some folks may find it kind of satisfying that Yamato gave this reasoning and that she would tell Momonosuke something else to not hurt his pride, I say for the most part, it's damage control, and I think kind of sloppy damage control.
There's more!
It's a bad move. Shueisha wouldn't want Oda to end the series anytime soon. That's Oda's own time preference for him to get the story done. But in the process, we miss out, I think, on quality for damn sure, because in of itself, we had all this time on Yamato, one of the few characters to have substantial ties to Ace, which should have a lot of weight in the story and for Luffy as a character. This is a unfortunately, it is a Game of Thrones situation here, where we waste a lot of time with the Azor High for the show, and ultimately there is no payoff. Oda kind of wasted our time with Yamato because he cuts her from joining the crew. All this panel time, all these moments, all these lead-ups for her to join the crew, wasted. And even though we can see why now, it is extremely unfortunate.